Oh hey, didn't see you there. I was so excited to get into my brand new ARK Electronics 5-inch developer drone. So, let's go over what we're gonna have in the package. Obviously we have our frame here, bottom frame, top plate for your battery and GPS and everything. 3mm thick carbon fiber CNC cut, pretty straightforward. And then you can expect to see in your package 4 female-female 10mm M3 standoffs and 4 male-female standoffs, also 10mm. 8 45mm standoffs to mount the top plate to the bottom plate and give you some clearance for all your electronics. 24, but maybe 32 in your kit. M3x8 bolts, just off the shelf stuff. 20 M3 lock nuts and 4 M2 lock nuts. And 20 M3x16 bolts. So that's the hardware. As far as electronics for today, I'm going to set this one up in a pretty simple configuration. ARK 4-in-1 ESC, ARK FPV Flight Controller, obviously an ARK Flow, and then an ARK Teseo GPS. But obviously you can do whatever configuration you want. This drone has mounting options for the regular PAB, the Pi 6X, Pi 6X Flow, and the ESC FPV combo. So that covers all of our stuff. And then as far as tools go, I'll be using this DeWalt electric screwdriver with a 2mm Allen bit in it. I'll use a 1.5mm just for mounting the GPS, because that's an M2. And then just handy little wrench set. And then of course, pliers never hurt. So that's what you can expect to see when you get yours, and let's get right into it. Before we get started putting everything together, I like to get my electronics all sorted out. I feel like it just makes the build process go a lot smoother, eliminates any hiccups, and avoids the problem everyone's had of having to take everything apart once you put it together. So let's go ahead and get the connectors soldered onto this ESC, or you can avoid that entirely by buying the ARK 4-in-1 ESC connectorized version once that comes out. It should be rolling out pretty soon. I've seen a few around the office, so pretty cool. But for now, let's get this guy soldered up, and that should be about the only thing we really have to do. I don't think we have to make any wires, so let's get into it. And there you have it. That's all there is to it. That's pretty much the only hard part of the process, in my opinion. It's certainly the only part where you're really going to need to solder or use any kind of specialized tools like that. So I just got these 4 little MR30s and this XT60 power cable soldered right on. Super easy. Pads are there. And yeah, but as I said, all that can be avoided if you buy the ARK 4-in-1 ESC pre-connectorized. So definitely think about doing that once that hits the website. Now all there is to do is to start screwing stuff on. So let's start with these female-female standoffs and our male-male standoffs, the 10mm ones. So let's get them out of the bag here. Don't need that anymore. And let's also grab our M3x8 screws. Get a couple of those out. We'll need 8 of them right here. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And grab our handy dandy screwdriver. And you'll notice that there are 2 mounting patterns for the ESC. They're not super distinct, so you're gonna have to be a little bit careful, but the holes are a little bit bigger on these. So there's 4 right here, dead center, and then there is another 4 holes towards the rear, in case you want to mount your ESC back there if you're running like a PAB or something. But we are running the FPV today, so let's just get this going using the female-female end to start. So I'll just kind of hand screw that on there. 1, 2, and we'll get them all tightened up with our screwdriver in just a second. Like I said, you can kind of pick out the holes because they are, I believe these are 4mm holes, and everything else is a little over 3. So if you got a keen eye, you can find them. But another way to find the center ESC mounting holes is that these cutouts in the arms kind of filter right towards the center, and the holes are like right around that kind of symmetrically there. So, and then let's just take our screwdriver here. Oh, that's the wrong bit. Silly me. I might have said earlier I was using a 2mm bit. That's wrong. 2.5. I forgot. Apologies. I'll try to throw a little note in the video when that happens. You don't need to get these crazy tight. I'm not even using a wrench here, but you certainly can if you want. Oh, whoopsies. A little nervous to be in front of the camera. So, another thing to call out here is that this X pattern, that is for mounting a FPV camera VTX module. So that is the front of the drone, and these two real big holes, that's the rear. Those were initially for mounting like antennas for a Jetson or something, but ended up scrapping the Jetson on this one. It's just a little bit too cumbersome, so we'll just chalk that up to weight savings. Anyway, now that we have those on, take your ESC and slap them right on top of those standoffs. They fit perfectly. And then now I'm going to take my male-female standoffs and just kind of hand screw those in there. Do the corners first to get it lined up. And these standoffs will be what our FPV Flight Controller will sit on top of. So just get those screwed on. And I'll probably throw a note in the video, but you might be able to tell here on the ESC, these corner MR30s are just straight across, and then these other corners have 2 wires crossed. That's just to make it a little bit easier on myself later on down the line, but it doesn't matter. If you do it that way, you can just go straight on all of them. In fact, you can do it however you'd like, because we can adjust this later using D-Shot and Q ground control, if that's what you're using. If you're using like something else, I don't know what to tell you, but for now, don't have to worry about that. We'll worry about that later on when we're setting it up. So those are on, and I just forgot one thing. Another thing I forgot to point out earlier that you will receive in your, if you buy like a ESC or an FPV, are these little rubber grommet kind of things. These go right into the mounting holes on your FPV Flight Controller, and they can be a little bit of a bear to get in there, but I've noticed that if I just kind of get it started and grab my pliers here, I can kind of get it pulled through. Like I said, it can be a little bit tricky. Careful not to rip it, but once you get it started, it goes pretty good. There we go, that's one. Alright, and there you will see, got all 4 rubber grommets on, long side down. Doesn't matter a bunch, but there you go. And then another important thing to note is the orientation of this flight controller. It does have XY orientation, which is important. I don't know if there's like a really easy way to remember it, but there's a little arrow on there that you can follow, or you can just ensure that the USB-C port is pointing towards the right side of your drone when looking at it from above. So get that all lined up, and then we will take our another 4 M3x8 screws and just kind of get them on there. Not much to it. Careful to not over tighten them. They'll kind of settle in. But just sort of get it started. And then we can kind of go through at the very end and make sure everything's nice and snug. And there we go. Here's where we are right now. Our ESC and flight controller are mounted safely. And let's move on to the next step, which will probably be mounting motors, which I need to go get. Hey guys, Nick from the future here. Sorry, there's one thing I completely forgot to mention that I think is worth mentioning. When you buy your ESC and FPV combo, it will come with this little tiny, I think they're 8 pins each? Yeah, 8 pins. GH to SH cable, and that plugs into the front of your ESC and into the PWM slot on your FPV flight controller. That's just to power the flight controller. Just thought it worth mentioning. Sorry about the interruption. Let's get back to the build. Okay. All right, next we are going to attach our flow. So you'll notice a distinct cutout here for the flow to kind of sit into with 4 holes around it. That's where the flow goes. And what I have done here is I printed out these just little spacer things, essentially. I did it out of TPU just so it's got a little bit more give to it. And that's just to ensure that the board isn't sitting directly on the carbon. It shouldn't be a big deal, but just don't want things to get bonked and all that. So we're going to take 4 of our M3x16 screws here. And we are going to take 4 of our M3 lock nuts. And I'm going to slap the flow on there. Note, if you are using the Pi 6X flow, it should also be able to look out of that hole, although I have not done any testing with that so far. But yep, pretty straightforward. I just kind of like to get my screws in there, spacer, just makes it a little easier. So you're not trying to slide the spacer in between the flow and the frame there. But once you get, one fell off, shoot. Once you get these guys on, which I will in just a moment, then you're just going to ensure that the connectors are pointed towards the rear and pop it on just like so. And there's probably an easier way to do it than the way that I did it, but it's on there nonetheless. And this one's giving me a little bit of a hard time. There we go. And then I'll get my lock nuts started. These things can be so tricky sometimes. Get these started just to make sure it doesn't fall off, and then we'll go through later and tighten them all up. Okay, that's on there. And then I'm going to take one of my wrenches. I think this is 5.5 millimeter. I hope I'm right about that. Let's see, am I on the money? We're going to tighten this back up using our 2.5 mil bit here. Let's see what's the best way to do this. This is always a little tricky. Careful not to activate that sensor with your wrench. There we go. 2 more to go. So this way, do it a little bit. Across it, that should be like that. There we go. Okay, let's wrap this down here. You want to try it? Try one more. Jesus. There you go. Good to go. Now we have our flow mounted. So it looks like on the bottom side shot, you can see those little spacers got a little bit squished, but it's no big deal. And now that that's on there, we'll take the 4-pin CAN cable that came with your flow, and we will plug that in. Don't plug this right into the flight controller just yet, because what you're going to want to do later on when you get your GPS on the top plate is kind of daisy chain them together, since the FPV flight controller only has one CAN port. So what you'll do is you'll go from flow into GPS and then GPS back down into the flight controller. So that's what that looks like. Now, what we're going to want to do is get our motors ready. So I've got my 4 motors here. I'm using the AOS Supernova, I think this is the 1980 kV versions. Yeah, 1980 kVs. And these are good. They're probably a little bit overkill for this drone, because all said and done, I'll load it up with a battery and everything. This thing only weighs about 1 kilogram, right on the dot, tiny bit over 1 kilogram. And so use whatever you want. I've found it kind of difficult to find motors in the kV range that this drone's really kind of intended for. They just always seem to be sold out, but best of luck. These are good motors. We're also looking for a US manufacturer of lightweight drone motors. So if you or anyone you know makes those, or if you're thinking about it, that would be a good market to get into, because I can tell you right now that there is a demand for it. But in the meantime, let's get these motors on. I am using the stock hardware that they came with. Yours should also come with hardware, but if not, these are just little M3s. And also one more note, the first version of this drone was 5 millimeters thick, but that was way overkill. So this is 3 millimeters thick. However, this hardware is just a little bit too long, and it will short out the motor, so keep that in mind when you're attaching your motors. I've printed out these little 2 millimeter thick plates that prevent that from happening. So just be careful. I'll upload the files or find a way to share these with everything else, so that you don't run into the same problem that I did and almost blow up your brand new drone. One more side note, I'm sure most of you guys know this, but in case you don't, your propellers, you'll have 2 that spin clockwise and 2 that spin counterclockwise. And a good way to remember which way they go is that you want the propellers to rotate top inward. So I've already got the propellers on here, but keep that in mind when you are attaching your propellers to your motors. So let's get these on. And it doesn't really matter where the plate goes, or if you use it at all, just be mindful. And I'm gonna drop a screw.
For you before I go out, there may be some stragglers though.
So there's one. I'll cut this down, or maybe just speed it up, or I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something. There we go, our motors are on, and one more thing to note is that this is a 16 by 16 mounting pattern on these motors, meaning it's 16 millimeters diagonally from one hole to the other, center to center. So just make sure that when you're picking out your motors, you pick out motors with that mounting pattern. Otherwise, you may have to return them, get new ones, or build some sort of custom mounting bracket, but it'd probably be easiest if you just made sure you got the right motors. So now that those are on, let's go ahead and connect our ESC to our motors. Easy peasy. Simple as 1, 2, 3. Even I can't screw this up. Boom. There you go. And you'll notice, I've referenced it a couple times, these cutouts. Those are for laying down your cables into, just kind of makes it a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer. Suppose it's optional if you want to do that or not. If you're so eager to get it flying, you want to just zip tie 'em right to the thing, that's fine too. But I like to kind of get them in there. It makes it look real sleek and nice. If I can. It's giving me a little bit of a problem. There we go. And then just take some zip ties. You'll notice there are a couple of little cutouts on the sides of the arms. That's intended for the zip ties to go around. So you just get one on there, tie it right down, nice and tight. There you go. And those cables aren't going anywhere, I promise you. Be a little bit of a cumbersome process, but it's worth it in the end, believe me. And then another thing you might notice is these holes that run perpendicular, or I guess parallel, sorry, to the kind of length of the drone here. There should be 5 of them, and there's 2 that are perpendicular to this arm here. You could, at first I made like a little bracket thing that I screwed on, but it just used so many screws, and the zip tie does the same thing. So feel free to use those however you want. I'm going to use them to zip tie these cables down. Make sure that nothing gets in the way of our motors, because that would be bad. That would be very, very bad. This can be a little tricky too, but once you get it, it's easy. Nice. Kind of popped out on me, just put it right back in, and then these channels actually do work pretty well once everything's zip tied down. So if it's kind of fighting you at first, worry not. Once you get it, it's no biggie. Just kind of push it down. Make sure you got every little bit of tooth that you can. Okay, so here we are. All 4 motors are attached, and they're all zip tied to the body. Those cables aren't going anywhere, except for maybe this one's a little bit loose. Whoops. That's okay. And then you might have a little bit of extra kind of dangling around. You don't want that to get in the blades or anything, so just take 2 more zip ties and then use those. There's a set of 3 holes right about where that is, so what I would do is just kind of tuck these in here a little bit, and zip it over there. Just not sure. It's not like a hook. Don't lie. Nice. Those guys are on, not going anywhere. And then just take your clippers or the inside part of your pliers here, Trim off that excess. Bing, bang, boom. That's all there is to it. All right, and now we can start thinking about putting on the top. So let's do that. All right, now we are ready to put on our top plate. So what you're gonna wanna do is grab those 8 45mm standoffs. Get those out of the bag. And the rest of your M3x8 screws should be 16, or yeah, 16. There we go. And really nothing to this. You're just going to want to locate the holes for your standoffs. So they're all in line, and the easiest way to find these is these little tabs kind of jutting out into these cutouts. Those are for your standoffs. So I'll just start there, and kind of pretty much the same as doing your ESC standoffs. Just get them started. We'll go back through and tighten it up later. And there are 10 holes for your standoffs, but I'm only using 8 just because one of them kind of gets in the way. And the whole idea with this thing was to make it easily serviceable, easy to swap stuff out. So the less stuff you have in between you and your boards, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So we're just going with 8 standoffs here. And the hole I'm skipping is the one right next to the flow. And I'll go straight up to this guy up here. We're not using a FPV cam today, but if you wanted to, this X spot here has some standard VTX module mounting patterns. And then I have designed it's like a little printable thing that slides over these standoffs on the front position here. With a standard, I think it's 19, maybe 20mm gap for mounting a FPV cam. And I will, again, include those in the print files. Okay. And last one. Okay, now we'll just go through and make sure these are all tight. Okay, so those are on. Now it's time to get our top plate ready. And so what you're gonna maybe want to think about doing, make it a little easier on yourself, is to just put this CAN cable through now, as opposed to later. And then probably you're gonna want to take your other CAN cable that should have come with your GPS, thread that down through as well, and into the CAN port on your flight controller. If I can get it. Boom, there we go. And now you just want to align your top plate. Note the cutout for the battery in the back there. That'll go towards the rear. If you want to, now might be a good time to get your XT60 pushed on through. Being a little bit of a pain. We got it. And just line that up, and same as before. Start threading in your screws into your standoffs. And on this one, I like to get one of each of the corners lined up first. Just makes it so this thing's not bouncing all over the place. There we go. And I'll tighten these down. And that thing's not going anywhere. That's Patrick taking a picture of me. Okay, and that is your top plate done. All right, now that that's all done, it's time to put on our landing gear and prop guards. And honestly, this is the most kind of optional part of this whole thing. You can design your own. You can go no landing gear if you were so inclined to do so, or do landing gear, no prop guards, but we got them. I'll put them in the print files below with everything else, so let's get to it. So this is going to use the rest of your M3x16s. There should be 16 of these total. And we're going to use the rest of the M3 lock nuts. So let's just get those all out. Okay. Pick out the M2s, get those out of here. Also worth noting, this is printed out of PETG and this is printed out of TPU. On the other version that I have, I just did both out of PLA. Doesn't seem to really make a big difference at all, so I would just say print these parts out of whatever filament you like best. It's your drone and no one can tell you what to do. So let's get this. So now I've got the foot on there, and let's get this pushed over the top of it. Being a little bit of a problem here. Let's see. I'll get you. And you'll notice that the prop guard and landing gear, they kind of sandwich the frame on this little jut out thing. And this has 4 holes cut out. You don't have to use all 4. I'm just using 2. There's only hardware to use 2, but feel free to use as many or as few as you would like. So now that we have that on there, let's get these on. And one more. Okay. Okay, and then just take your lock nuts Get them threaded on there a little bit. And you'll be good to go. This is my least favorite part of the whole build, just because there's some tight angles and it's a little finicky, but the whole part's fun. The whole build is fun, so. I trust that you will enjoy it too. Okay, let's take our wrench here, and same as before. Just like that. And just like that. Okay, that's that one on. Just like that, I'll get the rest of these on and then we will go from there. All right, and here we are. That was pretty easy. Got the gear and prop guards mounted, and this thing is just about done. All that's really left to do is get the GPS on there and clean up this top plate a little bit. So let's go. Here I have the Teseo GPS, and unfortunately there's not a perfect mounting pattern for this GPS, but there is dedicated mounting patterns for the ARK GPS, RTK base. There's another one we have with the same mounting patterns that I can't remember off the top of my head, I'm sorry, and the SAM GPS, I believe. But luckily for us, two of the holes line up, so we're just gonna go with that. So we have two of our M2 lock nuts, and where did I put the M2 screws? Huh, I might have forgot the M2 screws. That's my bad. I'll be back in just a second. Now that we have our two M2 screws, we can get on with this. So these screws will line up on the either left or right side, doesn't really matter, but we'll get them lined up and we will get them bolted to the top. This is just a little easy, simple 3D printed case I whipped up for the Teseo GPS. There should be downloadable 3D printable files for all of our boards, but I know there are a couple that when you check the docs, the case isn't there. So if you want a case for something, GPS, anything, and you go onto our website or the GitHub, and there aren't docs, there aren't cases, just feel free to hit me up on Discord at Nick J, I believe, on the ARK Discord, and I will either send them right to you or get them uploaded or whatever I gotta do. Let's see, this thing's being a little bit of a bear. Like I said, there's not dedicated holes for the Teseo, but that's okay. I might just gotta go one here. But yeah, like I was saying, we've got printable cases for just about everything. So if you're looking for a case, hit me up on Discord and I will be more than happy to either make one or get it sent over to you. Probably I should have done this before I put the top on, but hey, It's not like I do this all the time, right? Okay, there we go. So now we'll just take our wrench. What do we think? I think this is a 4 mil? 4.5 maybe? Let's see here. That's the one. And then we'll just get this tightened down and we'll be well on our way. And that guy's not going anywhere. Now remember earlier, there's these 2 CAN cables. It doesn't matter which one goes where because they're all going to the same place, but take and plug both of them into the 2 CAN ports that are on your GPS here. And now, this bad boy should be wired up. There is one more thing that you will need. Obviously, you'll need an RC module and a way to talk to your computer. We've been using the ESP32 drone bridge. That's been good. It's a little bit tricky to set up, but once you get it, it works good. I'll go over that later when we're setting this thing up on the computer. And but you could also use just a regular, telemetry radio. Up to you, fully. So yeah, whichever one works for you. I'll throw some links in the description and to a couple different modules that we like. Okay, and then that just leaves one thing. These straps and this little sticky pad. The sticky pad thing is optional. You don't have to use this, but we've been using them and we like them, so you just take that. I honestly don't even know where we got these all.
Not even a question either.
I'll try to find out. And just take that guy and slap it right down, and that really helps with your battery not sliding around, especially in flight. You don't want that. And then there are 3 slots for battery straps. Doesn't matter which ones you use, up to you. You could use all 3, you could use just one if you're a risk taker. But pretty straightforward. You just slide this on through, slide it underneath, and then back on up. This is another thing I probably should have done before I mounted the top on, but it's all about learning, isn't it? There you go. And you just pull this guy right on through. And boom, battery strap ready to go. Let's do one more, then we will be in business. All right, sorry about that, the battery died, but didn't miss much, just got that second strap on there. So that's the build portion completed, and now we will hop over to the computer and get this thing set up and ready to fly. So thank you for joining me. Hey guys, it's Nick from tomorrow. There's just one more thing I wanted to talk about before we hop into Q ground control and get our drone all set up and ready to go. And that's something I touched on a little bit earlier, and that's your RC module and your telemetry situation. So in the past, I have used just like a 900 megahertz telemetry radio, and I think for most people, that's going to be the best option, especially if you're kind of newer at this. On this one, we're using this ESP32 Wi-Fi module, using Drone Bridge, and these are nice because they're really affordable and not like terrible to set up, but you do have to do a little bit of soldering, and it can be kind of tricky getting it set up at very first. So ultimately that's your choice. We don't offer anything like that, so you'll have to find that from somewhere else. And then I don't even know who makes this RC module. I think this is just on like Amazon or DigiKey or something. But super easy once you get these set up. Obviously this is just going to plug into the telemetry slot on the side of your flight controller here, right there. And then your RC module will plug into your RC slot. And with the RC, I like to feed it through that same hole that the CAN cables go down through. So once you do that, then your drone is fully good to go. Start getting set up in Q ground control, and I'll throw a couple links in the description for these as well, a couple different options. So yeah, now that we got that set up, all we have to do is fire up Q ground control, and we should be good to go. Okay guys, so here I am. I have my battery plugged in. I got my drone bridge set up and my RC module set up, although we don't really need to worry about the RC right now. I'm not going to go over how to set up the drone bridge just because it's kind of a little bit of a pain. It's outside the scope of this video, and there's tons of documentation about it, so you can figure that out. However, we are going to go into PX4 here, and let me set up my screen recording. And sorry about the annoying kind of thing. It's going to be doing that until we get everything set up. But I'm going to screen record PX4 here, and we'll get this thing set up. So we go into vehicle configuration, and we're going to need to set up a couple different things. So this is just a generic quadcopter, so select that, and then hit apply and restart. And that'll reboot the flight controller.
Communication lost.
Unfortunately, the ESC is still redoing that. Sometimes it's easiest if you just manually reboot it. At least I'll give us a break from that for a second. And this thing always takes a little bit of time. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Like I said, it can be a little tricky. Just getting these things. That drone bridge can be kind of tough, but we're going to go into actuators here and set up D-shot so that we can. God damn, I need to restart it again. So that we can get our motor set up.
Communication lost. Communication regained.
And that will help us with this beeping. That can get old pretty quick, but go to actuators here. It's on D-shot. We're going to click identify and assign motors. And you're supposed to take the props off, but we'll be okay. Okay. So, spin motor again. So that was that guy. That was that guy. That was that guy. And that was that guy. And half of those seem to be blown the wrong way. So what we're going to do here is very carefully and that guy seems to be blowing the right way. Motor 2 seems to be blowing the right way. Motor 3 also seems to be blowing the right way. One more. Well, they also need to be blowing the correct way. Let's try this. Let's be real careful here. All right, I think we're good. That was easy. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Power, you need to input your battery information and then set up your radio. Again, this is all kind of outside the scope of what I do. But there's tons of documentation, and it all depends on your hardware and stuff. So I think that's about it for this guy. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching, and checking out this video and thinking about getting one of these drones. It's really fun. It's a good little tool. Great development drone. I had a lot of fun making it. And I hope you do. So thank you very much. And I will see you on the next one.